Hi everybody, welcome to the first video of the Mastering Anatomy series. In today's video, we are going to focus on understanding anatomical position, planes, and directions. These basics are really going to help you build upon the intricacies of anatomy as you progress through this series. So let's get started. So what exactly will we be learning today? Well, we are going to be able to identify anatomical position, define anatomical directional terms and planes, and then we will also apply proper anatomical terminology to describe the location and relationships between structures of the human body. So let's first start by identifying what is anatomical position. Well, anatomical position is shown here on the right, and the globally anatomical position is standing upright, head and gaze directed forward, arms at sides, palms facing forward, and then legs close together and feet parallel. And this anatomical position is really going to help you better identify where the muscles are located and the names of the muscles. And you'll see how this anatomical position is really going to help you do that as you progress through this anatomy series. So now let's start with identifying and understanding anatomical planes. So anatomical planes are imaginary lines that divide the body into sections to help describe the location of body parts. And there's actually three main anatomical planes. So we have the median plane, the frontal or coronal plane, and then the transverse or axial plane. And the median plane is a vertical plane that runs from the front to back, and it divides the body into the right and left sides. Now, the frontal or coronal plane is a vertical plane that runs from side to side, and it actually divides the body into the anterior or front portion of the body, or posterior and back portion of the body. And then lastly, we have a transverse plane or axial plane, and it is a horizontal plane that runs from top to bottom, and it divides the body into superior, upper, and inferior or lower halves of the body. And then we have here anatomical sections, and these anatomical sections are just slices of the body that remain along specific planes. And we have the longitudinal section, which can actually also be called the median section. We have the transverse section, and then the oblique section. And the oblique section are just slices of the body that are not cut along one of the anatomical planes, so it's the reason why it's called an oblique section. So now here, this is where you really have to pay attention, because the anatomical directions are also going to help you identify and remember the names of the different muscles that you have to learn in the human body, and also understand the direction of where each muscle or anatomical part of the body is located. So let's first start with superior cranial versus inferior caudal. So let me just pick a color. Let's start with red. Okay, so we're first going to start with superior cranial. And I'm just going to put a color there so that you guys can identify it. So, the superior cranial part, it's nearer to the head. So in this case, the heart is superior to the stomach. As it's higher, the heart is nearer to the head. So that makes sense. Now we have the inferior caudal, which the inferior caudal is nearer to the feet. In this case, the stomach is inferior to the heart, because the stomach is nearer to the feet, so it's inferior. Now, let's differentiate between anterior ventral versus posterior dorsal. Oop, I'm going to change that color. Put that in yellow. Start with anterior ventral. Okay. So, anterior ventral is nearer to the front. So in this case, the toes are anterior to the ankle. Now, posterior or dorsal is nearer to the back. In this case, the heel is posterior to the toes. Now let's differentiate medial versus lateral. Let me choose a different color. So medial. Okay, so medial is nearer to the median plane. So the median plane of the body, and you have to remember that the median plane divides the body in half. Oops, I did that horrible. There we go. So in this case, the fifth digit, or the little finger right here, is on the medial side of the hand as it's nearer to the median plane. Now, lateral is farther from the median plane. So in this case, the first digit, which is the thumb, is on the lateral side of the hand as it's farther from the median plane. Now, oops, I don't want that color. Let's do a lighter blue. Proximal versus distal, but we're first going to start with proximal. Proximal is nearer to the trunk or point of origin. In this case, the elbow is proximal to the wrist. Now, distal I don't know if I did that color. No. Okay, distal is farther from the trunk or point of origin. In this case, the wrist is distal to the elbow. Now, let's differentiate between superficial versus intermediate versus deep. So superficial is nearer to the surface. So in this case, the muscles of the arm are superficial to its bone. And then intermediate is between a superficial and deep structure. So in this case, the biceps muscle is intermediate between the skin and the humerus. Now, deep is farther from the surface. So in this case, the humerus is deep to the arm muscles. Now, palmar versus dorsal is, let me see, what color can I choose? Well, I have many, so I'll do this one. Palmar is anterior hand or palm, right? It's very easy to remember because palmar, just remember it's the palm. And then dorsal, which is its posterior hand, which is the dorsum. So the fastest way that I remember these two is that palmar, which is, remember that's the palm, and then dorsal, it's posterior to the hand. And then same goes with the feet. We have plantar versus dorsal, and plantar, which is the sole, and then the dorsal part of the foot, which is the superior foot surface. And that pretty much sums up everything that has to deal with anatomical directions. And all of these are going to come up again in the names of the muscles that you have to remember for anatomy. So it's really important that you understand these anatomical directions and that you have them engraved in your head, because it's going to come up again as you continue to study anatomy. So now, after we have gone through this information, let's do a knowledge check. And here you can pause the video and answer this question. And once you're ready and you have your answer, unpause the video and the answer will be on the next slide. So thank you everybody for watching the first video of the Mastering Anatomy series. I hope you enjoy, and until the next one, bye!